Okay, medicinal herbs, plants, things that can improve performance that have been around for a long time. Most of them full of crap. Not all of them, though. We live in a good time right now because we have data to support what people have been saying for hundreds, sometimes thousands of years. For example, one herb, which was highly regarded in Russia, rhodiola, has been shown in studies to improve stamina, endurance, and mood. It's actually been known to be one of the best supplements to improve your ability to handle workload. Another one, cordyceps. This is something that people have been using in China for a long time, again, for athletic performance. We now have data showing that it does, in fact, improve endurance and stamina. So it's a cool time. A lot of these herbs that we've been told for a long time that actually work for performance actually do. Those two are my favorites.
Took everything Justin could muster to not go China.
I love that.
How'd you know?
Have you guys seen,
I saw it.
have you ever seen that?
Let's I'll finish. Have
you seen that meme? It's got a picture of Trump and he's doing that, and it says it's spelled CHYNA. China.
Yeah.
And that time he did that press conference.
I saw it just
when our president says something like that. Oh boy. Anyway, no, those are really cool. So I remember reading about both herbs as a kid. Way back, because I used to, I used to just scour books and magazines, and I remember reading I'll start with cordyceps. I remember reading in a Chinese herb book, and among other things, there was like ginseng. There was, just highly regarded herbs, and I read about cordyceps. First of all, cordyceps is very fascinating. This is I guess it's a fungus that literally grows and takes over insects.
Yeah.
And in fact, that show that's out,
them.
Yeah, that show that's out, Last of Us, the fungus that turns people into zombies is called the cordyceps. This won't do that to you, by the way. It's just, people have been eating for a long time.
Yeah.
But I remember reading about cordyceps, but back then there was no studies, right? There was nothing to support it. It was just what you read. And then rhodiola was another one. I found some old books where they translated Soviet era studies, and rhodiola was among the top herbs that they used to use for their athletes. And they said that it helped them with stamina, endurance, workload. They said work capacity is what they used to say.
Is that what it takes to sort of validate? I remember was it cordyceps, or it was something that it was like the Chinese team was using that gave them kind of an endurance?
That's what they said.
Right.
I forgot which Olympics it was. It was like with maybe 15 years ago, 10 years ago. They were winning like a bunch of events.
Yeah.
And they said, and then people were like, well, how did you guys get so much better? Like cordyceps.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, I don't know. I know like in terms of it, people being interested in it and not because herbal remedies, this was always kind of a thing that was a little bit like, oh, okay. It was a little bit of quackery.
Yeah. So two things on that. One, when Olympic teams all of a sudden crush and then say it's an herb, I'm going to be honest with you, it's probably not. It's probably something
it's probably propaganda.
Like the famous story of the East German women's swim team. You guys ever hear about this one?
Yeah.
This was in the 1950s or 60s. And this is when anabolic steroids, maybe it was the 50s, when nobody really knew that people were using them or whatever, and the communist countries were using them before anybody else. And this East German women's swim team comes out, and they were just
jacked.
Yeah, dude, they were like, duh. And everybody's like, what is up with those chicks? And then they killed everybody.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what they said it was. Oh, some special, plant or whatever. No, it was steroids. But anyway, cordyceps, rhodiola, and there's other herbs out there that have been basically put on a pedestal by practices that have existed for hundreds or thousands of years. Now, a lot of them don't have data to support them because we either don't have studies or we don't have good studies. Now, does that mean they don't work? No, because when something has hundreds or thousands, in some cases like ginseng, thousands of years of anecdote, I consider that pretty reliable. If it's like a few people or 10 people or even 100 people, okay, well, placebo or, I don't know if it's trustworthy. But if it's lasted that long,
there's definitely something going on.
Yeah, there's something there. We just haven't figured it out. Rhodiola and cordyceps are two that are pretty good. I personally notice both of those. I notice rhodiola, in terms of rhodiola, that is a wonderful replacement for caffeine for me. If I'm going off caffeine, rhodiola helps with the edge, keeps me feeling, like I'm not crashing off caffeine. It gives me a little bit of energy. Cordyceps, I notice when I'm doing anything that requires lots of volume. So if I'm doing a long workout, or back in the day when I used to do jujitsu, I could tell with cordyceps. Also improve my heat tolerance.
Yeah.
So like if I'm in the hot sun, or if I'm using the sauna a lot, I can last a lot longer. But they both.
Well, mushrooms and herbs in this adaptogenic kind of classes, like they're finding a lot of real benefit in stress management, right?
You use the right term, adaptogenic. Rhodiola would be considered an adaptogen. I don't know if they could put cordyceps in that category, although I would. Ashwagandha is another one that would be a classic.
Which one of those is in the red juice?
Both.
They both are.
Yeah, rhodiola and cordyceps are both in the Organifi red juice.
So which one would you attribute? Because I that's what I love to use when I'm coming off of caffeine. I've noticed a huge difference by replacing whatever caffeine drink that I'd have with the red juice until I get completely eliminate all caffeine. What is it in there that I most likely am feeling those effects from? Is it both, or is it more than?
I would have to say there's probably a synergistic effect, although cordyceps isn't something that you take and then you kind of feel like a little bit of energy from right away. You notice when you're working out that, I can work out harder. Rhodiola, you can tell when you take it. So it's probably the rhodiola that you're noticing. But they do work synergistically. I take rhodiola when I'm weaning off other stimulants. Cordyceps, I take pretty consistently. I take that almost every time I work out. I take it. And I've been doing that for years and years and years. It's one of my favorite, supplements that's not creatine, right? Creatine is like the king. It's one of my favorites. But those are two pretty good ones. And what's cool is we have studies and data now that finally support those two things, where you can actually look, here's some studies, here's some placebo-controlled studies. They have studies on rhodiola and mental performance, where they'll give it to Russia did this. They gave it to students. I think there was military tests, and they put them under extreme stress, and then saw how they could perform mentally. Because one of the things is, if you're stressed, lack of sleep, mental performance just takes a dump,
declines,
right? Yeah, you lose your IQ goes down. You just make stupid decisions. People on rhodiola had much higher capacity. Then there's animal studies. Not that animal studies always translate. And to be honest with you, this is kind of a mean animal study, but they gave rats rhodiola and some no rhodiola, and then put them in water to see how long it took them to drown. And the rhodiola group lasted longer. I don't know who makes
significantly.
I know. They did.
Was it a lot longer?
The law was like 40% or 50% longer.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So they actually swam way longer on the rhodiola. I know.
Fucked up test.
That's a messed up test, dude. It's like, but hey, it showed that. But yeah, they didn't.
Progress.
Hey, luckily it wasn't on humans.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see how long you can swim until you drown.